Metropolitan Capital Bank, a name that sounds like stability, a name that sounds like iron and concrete. As of this morning, that name is history. The first United States bank failure of 2026 is officially in the books. And while the headlines are screaming panic and the talking heads are predicting the apocalypse, I want you to take a deep breath. Because this isn't a story about money disappearing. This is a story about the illusion of safety, and more importantly, it is a story about your power to wake up. Today, we are going deep into the collapse of Metropolitan Capital. We are going to walk through exactly what happened, why the warning signs were ignored, and why this specific failure in Chicago is actually the greatest wake-up call you could have asked for. If you think this doesn't affect you because you don't live in Illinois, or because you bank with a giant like Chase or Bank of America, you are missing the point. This is about the system, and the system just blinked. But before we get into the wreckage, I want you to do something for me. If you have ever felt that gut-wrenching anxiety when a card gets declined, even when you know you have the money, tap that like button. It tells me I'm not alone in this. So, let's go back. Let's go back to before the door is locked. Metropolitan Capital Bank wasn't a villain. That's the first thing you have to understand. In the movies, the banks that fail are run by guys in smoke-filled rooms twisting their mustaches. But in reality, Metropolitan was the bank that gave the loan for the coffee shop on the corner. It was the bank that held the mortgage for the renovated loft in the West Loop. It was a mid-sized regional player, the kind of bank that felt personal. So why did it break? To understand 2026, we have to look at the hangover from 2024 and 2025. You remember the narrative. Interest rates were supposed to stabilize. Inflation was supposed to be a memory. We were told that the soft landing had been achieved. But in economics, there is no such thing as a landing. There is only the cycle. Metropolitan Capital was heavy into commercial real estate. And I know, that sounds boring. But stick with me because this is the smoking gun. In Chicago, just like in San Francisco and New York, the office towers never really filled back up. Not all the way. We changed how we worked, we changed how we lived. But the loans on those skyscrapers, they didn't change. They still needed to be paid. For the last 2 years, banks have been playing a game of extend and pretend. They renewed loans that should have defaulted, hoping that the market would turn around, hoping that value would return. But hope is not a strategy. And in January 2026, reality came knocking. Metropolitan Capital looked at its balance sheet and realized the assets they were holding, these massive loans on office buildings, were worth 40 cents on the dollar. They were insolvent, they were broke. Now, usually a bank can hide this for a while, but in the digital age, secrets have a short shelf life. Rumors started on social media. A tweet here, a Reddit thread there. Hey, my wire transfer's delayed. Has anyone else had trouble with the Metropolitan app? Speed is the killer. In 1929, a bank run meant a line of people around the block. You could see the panic. You could talk to the manager. You could physically slow it down. In 2026, a bank run happens at the speed of light. It happens on fiber optic cables. Millions of dollars can move in seconds. By the time the CEO of Metropolitan sat down for his morning coffee on Thursday, the capital had already fled. The vault was digital, and the door was wide open. This is the scary part. The speed. It's why you need to pay attention. But here is where the story shifts. Because usually this is the part where I tell you to be afraid. This is the part where I tell you to stuff your cash in a mattress and buy canned beans. But I'm not going to do that. Because when Metropolitan Capital failed this week, something incredible happened. The FDIC stepped in? Yes. That's standard. They came in on Friday evening, the classic time for a bank takeover. They do it then so they have 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, to sort out the mess before the markets open on Monday. It's a weekend of controlled chaos. But look at the reaction of the people. I was reading an interview with a small business owner in Chicago. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus runs a logistics company. His payroll account was with Metropolitan. When the news broke, he didn't panic. He didn't scream. He told the reporter, "We've been through worse. We will figure it out." That right there, that is the spirit I want to talk about. See, a bank failure is a systemic failure. It is a failure of numbers, of regulation, of risk management. But it is not a failure of the people. The media loves to show you the crying faces. They love to show you the chaos, but they rarely show you the resilience. The collapse of Metropolitan Capital is a reminder that institutions are fragile. They are made of paper and promises. But you are anti-fragile. You get stronger when things get chaotic if you have the right mindset. Let's pause for a second. I want to ask you a serious question. If your primary bank closed its doors tomorrow, completely inaccessible for 5 days, how would you pay for groceries? Do you have a backup plan? I'm genuinely curious. Drop a comment below. Yes or no. It's a good self-audit to take right now. Now let's look at the contagion risk. That's the buzzword you're going to hear all week. Contagion. Is this going to spread? Is this the start of the Great Depression 2.0? Here's the truth. The banking system is a confidence game. It works because we believe it works. When Metropolitan failed, it put a crack in that confidence. Other regional banks are going to be under the microscope now. Investors are going to be looking at their commercial real estate exposure. We might see 2 or 3 more closures in the coming months. It is possible. But here's the inspirational twist. Every time a bank fails, a generation learns a lesson about sovereignty. When we see the service unavailable screen, we are reminded that we have outsourced our trust. We gave our power to a third party. And when that third party trips and falls, we get bruised. The failure of Metropolitan Capital is the first of 2026, but it is also the greatest advertisement for financial literacy that we have ever seen. It is pushing people to ask the right questions. What is money? Is it the digits on the screen, or is it the value you create? This event is driving people to diversify. We are seeing a surge in people buying physical assets, gold, silver, land. We are seeing a renewed interest in Bitcoin and decentralized finance, systems that don't rely on a CEO making good decisions about office buildings in Chicago. People are waking up to the idea of being their own bank. And that is a beautiful thing. It is empowering to realize that you don't have to be a victim of the business cycle. You can structure your life so that when the bank fails, you feel an inconvenience, not a catastrophe. Let's talk about the employees for a moment, the tellers, the loan officers, the branch managers at Metropolitan. 2,000 people unsure of their jobs this morning. It is heavy. It is tragic. But history shows us something amazing about these moments. When Lehman Brothers collapsed, when Silicon Valley Bank went down, the talent didn't disappear. Those people went on to build new things. They started fintech companies. They became consultants. They started small businesses. The destruction of the old structure provides the bricks for the new one. This is the cycle of creation and destruction. It is painful, yes, but it is necessary. A forest fire burns down the dead wood so that new growth can happen. Metropolitan Capital was dead wood. It was holding onto assets that no longer had value. It was pretending the world hadn't changed. By failing, it has cleared the way. It has forced the market to be honest. And honesty, even when it hurts, is the only foundation you can build a real life on. So, what happens next? What does the next week look like for Chicago and the U.S. economy? Monday morning will be volatile. The stock market will likely dip. The pundits will yell. But the FDIC has already announced that depositors will be made whole. The insurance fund is doing its job. The immediate crisis will be contained. But the psychological shift, that isn't going away. You are going to see a change in how people bank. You're going to see a flight to quality. The big banks will get bigger. That is an unfortunate side effect. Chase and Wells Fargo will swallow up the customers fleeing the regionals. But underneath that, there is a simmering counterculture of financial independence growing. This is your invitation to join that counterculture. I want you to think about your own financial setup. Are you single point of failure dependent? If you are, use this news story not as a source of fear, but as a source of motivation. Open a second account at a different institution. Keep some cash on hand, actual physical cash. Look into assets that don't have a counterparty risk. This isn't about doomsday prepping. It is about life prepping. It is about sleeping better at night. There is a quote I love, and I think it fits perfectly here. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. We have been in the good times for a while, masked by artificial stimulus. Now, we are entering the hard times. But that means we are about to see a generation of strong people emerge. People who don't rely on the system to save them. People who understand value. People like you. The failure of Metropolitan Capital Bank is a tragedy for the institution, but it is a triumph for reality. The market is correcting itself. It is purging the bad decisions. And in the long run, a healthy, honest market is better for everyone than a fake, propped-up bubble. I want to address the people in Chicago specifically. If you're watching this and you are in the 312 or 773 area code, this hits close to home. You might see the empty storefronts. You might see the for lease signs on the office towers that cause this mess. Don't look at them with despair. Look at them as opportunity. Real estate prices will reset. It might take a year, it might take 2. But when the dust settles, that office space will become something else. Maybe residential apartments, maybe vertical farms, maybe art studios. The city will reinvent itself. Chicago survived the Great Fire. It survived the gangsters. It survived the deindustrialization of the Rust Belt. It will survive a bank failure. Cities are living organisms. They adapt. And so do you. I want to pivot to a slightly deeper concept here, the psychology of trust. Money is just a language we use to communicate value. When I give you $20, I am communicating that I have done $20 worth of work, and I trust that you will accept that paper in exchange for goods. Banks are the translators of this language. When the translator dies, the conversation stops. That is why it is so scary. It feels like we have lost our ability to speak to the world, but we haven't. The value is still there, your skills are still there, your assets are still there. The only thing that broke was the middleman. In 2026, we have more tools than ever to bypass the middleman. We have technology that allows peer-to-peer transaction. We have communities that support each other. The bank is a convenience, not a necessity for survival. If you are finding value in this breakdown, if this is helping you see the headlines differently, make sure you are subscribed. We don't just read the news here, we dissect the meaning behind it. And hit that bell, because when the next shoe drops, you want to be the first to know. Let's look at the timeline for the rest of 2026. Metropolitan Capital is the first. It won't be the last. Analysts are predicting that we could see a dozen regional banks fold this year. The pressure from commercial real estate is just too high. The wall of debt coming due is in the trillions, but here's the strategy I want you to adopt. Be the calmest person in the room. When your friends start panicking about the news, be the one who explains it to them. It's just the CRE exposure clearing out. It's a correction. Be the leader in your circle. Panic is contagious, but so is calm. If you can maintain your composure, if you can keep your head while everyone else is losing theirs, you will spot opportunities that they miss. Maybe stocks of good companies will get sold off in the panic. That's a buying opportunity. Maybe real estate prices dip. That's an entry point. Wealth is rarely destroyed in these moments. It is merely transferred. It transfers from the impatient to the patient, from the unprepared to the prepared, from the fearful to the brave. Which side of the transfer are you going to be on? The story of Metropolitan Capital is going to be written in the history books as a warning sign, but I want you to write it in your personal history book as the moment you took charge. We have to stop looking at the economy like it is the weather, something that just happens to us that we can't control. The economy is us. It is the sum total of our choices. Every time you save instead of spend, you impact the economy. Every time you invest in education, you impact the economy. Every time you choose a local credit union over a massive conglomerate, you impact the economy. You have a vote. You vote with your dollars every single day. So, as the sun sets on Chicago tonight and the signage is taken down from the metropolitan branches, let's not mourn the bank. Let's celebrate the wake-up call. Let's celebrate the fact that truth has a way of coming to the surface. And let's prepare for a year of volatility, a year of ups and downs. But a year where we navigate the storm together. I want to leave you with this thought. Security does not come from the FDIC. It does not come from the government. It does not come from a bank vault. True security comes from your ability to produce, your ability to adapt, and your ability to endure. Metropolitan Capital Bank failed because it stopped adapting. It got stuck in the past. Don't be like the bank. Stay fluid. Keep learning. Keep growing. If you are ready to take control of your financial future and you want to understand exactly how to position yourself for the rest of 2026, I have a deep dive video coming up next. We are going to talk about the asset allocation of the new economy. What to hold, what to fold, and where to hide when